welcome back to the CIY Path, the podcast where we talk about the ways in which you can create it yourself. And most of our focus is on home ownership and creating spaces that meet your needs and your desires and that are functional for you. So one of the things we always talk about is, pathways to home ownership and like anybody can get it done. But the reality of it and the truth is that you need money to be able to buy a home. And so I brought in a special guest to have a money talk with us. Today we have Yannick Diouf as a guest with us. Yannick, in full disclosure, is my brother from another mother, the brother I never asked for and did not want. But God gives us things that we don't want, but I guess we need it.
And we thank God. God
so
is good.
Welcome, Yannick. And so I just want to give you a chance to just introduce yourself, tell people about what you do, who you are, all that good stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So background is in finance. Jamie and I, we like to joke that we birthed a child called Undocu Black, which was a nonprofit along with Jonathan as well. So we spent 5 years together at Undocu Black from the ground up, and also had some experience organizing with United We Dream and the campaigns and all that good stuff. So I've known her since 2013, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, my background's in finance and real passionate about personal finance, particularly with Black immigrants, immigrants in general, but especially Black immigrants, given my background in particular. So.
Yeah, tell them, give them a short synopsis of your book.
Yeah, so my
Doundale.
book is called Doundale, a guide for Black immigrants navigating money and the system in the United States. The goal of it is to essentially have a holistic approach to financial management when it comes to immigrants who are new to the country, not familiar with the system. And so oftentimes we find ourselves coming into the country, not being familiar, making mistakes, and trying to just survive. And Doundale is a word in Wolof, which means to live and thrive. And so my hope is that by reading the book, Black immigrants will live and thrive and have some type of organization to your finances. And you don't have to be the richest person or make a ton of money, even on a minimal income. There's a way that you can organize your life, be intentional, and also plan for the future and hopefully be in a thriving situation.
We love to thrive. We're over surviving. All right. So one of the things people always say, and I see this on social media a lot, and I don't know if I ever really bought into it, but people always say, like you have like financial gurus on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and everybody's an expert. One of the things they always say, like the roadmap to wealth, is they'll say if you're renting, you're wasting your money or you're throwing away your money. Like you need to own a home. I definitely don't believe that now. I don't know if I ever believed it, but I don't believe it now. And I know, having read your book, that you also don't buy into that because you don't believe there is like a one size fits all for everybody when it comes down to finances. So just respond to that. Let me know what you think about that kind of thought process, that like renting is a waste of money.
Yeah. So, when you get indoctrinated into a cult, you're like, where is this going?
Yes. Enter unhingedness. I should have actually given a disclaimer. Yannick is unhinged. Absolutely unhinged. I think I don't know if between you and Joel, my husband, who is more unhinged. I honestly don't know.
Allegedly.
But we should, I do think we should aim to be more like y'all. You're all free. But
carefree.
Yes. But yes, tell us about the cult.
Yeah, so cult behavior is when you have all these dogmatic beliefs that don't have the ability to be challenged or even questioned. And when you're in an organization or in a situation or part of some type of belief where you can't even question what's being discussed, most likely you're in a cult. And people who bring up and question the fact that every single person in the country has to own a house or else you're wasting your money, that is cultish behavior. And it's very dogmatic and it's very extreme. And typically whenever you have, especially when you're talking about money, you have these very extreme beliefs and dogmatic beliefs that everybody has to do something or else it's terrible. That's a big red flag. So I always one thing I keep reiterating in the book is a balanced approach is usually the right approach. When you are deciding to buy a house, the numbers have to tell you the story about what makes sense for you to do, right? There are ways that you can calculate and see what you can afford, because it's not just enough to get into a house. The most important part is to be able to stay in the house for long periods of time, hopefully long enough for you to be paying your monthly mortgage and build equity. And if it appreciates in a time frame where it makes sense for you to either liquidate or maybe just hold on to it, then you can benefit from that. So again, the most important part is being able to stay in a house long term, not just get into a house.
Yeah.
A lot of people are house rich, cash poor, meaning they are in a great, beautiful house, but 80% of their income goes into that house. Keep in mind that when an institution is offering you money to buy a house, they're basing it on your gross salary and your gross income, not after tax.
Yep.
And so just because you qualify for a $500,000 house loan, that doesn't mean you should take that full loan.
Hallelujah. Ashe.
So going back to the cult thing, you really run the numbers. There's a great calculator. I think it's New York Times. I believe it's the New York Times. Housing. It's called it's called a house rent calculator. And depending on the market, there's so many factors. Depending on the market, depending on your income, depending on the location, depending on the time, it may or may not make sense for you to either rent at the time or try and get a mortgage at the time. So you can run the numbers leveraging that calculator. It's got a bunch of different factors that you can input in there, and it'll basically recommend, hey, based on all these inputs that you have, it makes more sense for you either to rent or to buy. Typically, if it's really, really expensive market, they'll recommend that you rent. If it's slightly
cheaper,
then they recommend that you buy, so that hopefully you can build equity over time.
Oh, that's the first time I'm hearing about that. So they basically take into consideration where the housing market is at the time.
They have so many different inputs that you can put in that impact the recommendation.
When you say input, what are you referring to?
So it'll say like your income. It'll say, and I imagine maybe it'll ask you about like what your expenses are. It'll ask where do you want to live, how much of a house, like, are you with a family, how many bedrooms do you want, how many bathrooms, do you want to be close to a school zone, all these things impact how much money is going to take to get that mortgage. And so you have to be mindful of that.
Yeah. When you say like a balanced approach is the best or the right approach, that I really feel that. And also like one size doesn't fit all, right? Everybody cannot own a home. Somebody has to rent it at some point, right?
And some people, it makes most sense for them to rent because it costs them less to rent. And guess what? The money you're not spending on a home, you can then invest that money elsewhere, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. You can invest it in the stock market over a longer period of time. Also, another thing, keep in mind that if you do end up getting a mortgage, in the first years of the mortgage, most of your payment is going into interest payments. So you're not building equity for quite some time.
Oh,
and so people are saying you're wasting your money on rent. You're also wasting your money on interest. Right.
Let's talk about that. Mighty God of Daniel. It is not
Daniel. Who would that?
It is not just the first year of renting that a lot. So your payments are going to interest. Like every now and again, I'll log in and look at the breakdown of the mortgage that we pay, and I get so mad. And I keep thinking to myself, every now and then I just say, God, let me win the lotto. I want to pay off like a bunch of this mortgage or all of it so that I can stop sending my money to interest. You're paying more. We've been in our house for over 3 years and we're still paying more interest than we are to the principal.
Yeah. You can what can help with that, if it's a mortgage or even car payment, you can make, in addition to your regular payments, you can make large principal payments, and you have to tell them, hey, this is going specifically to principal to help pay that down. And because really the interest payment is based on how long you have to make that payment.
Yeah, right? To pay them back.
Exactly. So the less principal you have to pay, the less interest you're paying them over time.
Yep. And you have to make sure you specify that it's going to the principal when you
That's
do
right.
it, or they will scam you and take that money and put it towards their interest.
I've never heard of a financial institution trying to scam people.
Oh, really?
Not to my knowledge.
All right. So the other thing that I've also heard you say is owning a house is a liability. Tell us about that. Why you say
Did
that?
I say that? It can be a liability.
Or it can be a liability.
It can be a liability if you can't afford it. If the house is, if your house payment on a monthly basis is like 70% of your take home pay, and you don't have enough money for groceries, or you barely have enough money to take care of your other needs, if you have kids or whatever the case may be, any emergency, if you lose your job, God forbid, whatever happens, you don't have any buffer room for any type of life event to happen. So it can be a liability if you are not structured in the right way to begin with. Housing ownership is about sustainability in the long term, not just getting into a house and saying, hey, this is a shiny thing, because that's, people can just get into trouble with that. So it can be a liability. Having a car can be a liability if you can't afford it, right? There's some people who try to keep up with the Joneses. Having certain clothes can be a liability. Almost anything can be a liability if you don't do it the right way.
Yeah, that's true. So all right. So tell us a little bit about I don't know if I should call them money tips, but what are some of the things that you cover in your book, and things that you think people really should be considering to prepare to buy a home? That's if that's a goal of theirs, right?
Correct.
Yeah, share some insight with us.
Specifically related to buying a home, understand why you want to buy a home, first of all. Are you buying it to have it as an investment property? Are you buying it for your family? Are you buying it for yourself? Are you buying it to be in a good school district for your family? Are you hoping it appreciates? Do you care if it appreciates? Do you just want to be comfortable? Are you trying to leave in a couple of years? All those things will impact the type of loan that you get, whether a fixed or an arm rate loan. If you get a big, medium, small house, if you get a large house, the location of the house, etc. And prior to knowing why you're getting the home, looking within yourself overall, all these financial things are really a reflection of who you are as a person and what your values are. If you are not clear about who you are, what you want out of life, it makes it a lot more difficult to decide on these financial tools and tactics.
Yeah.
If you're very clear about your vision, if you say, hey, I am a 35-year-old woman, I have 2 kids and a husband, and in the next 5 years, we're looking to get in a good school district, etc. This is what I want my life to look like. Everything else falls into place, because then you'll know exactly what kind of loan you want, what kind of house you want, what kind of cars you want, what sacrifices to make, and where to allocate more of your money. If you are unclear about it and you're just moving based on what other people are doing and what works for them but might not work for you, that's when you get into trouble.
Yep.
And you make stupid decisions.
Yep. And when you listen to people who aren't paying your bills, by the way.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
And then you go into $50,000 in debt for a wedding that people where people hate you. Are you dumb?
Listen, I saw a clip on Instagram and I laughed so hard. The person was talking about how they believe that there should be a law or some guidelines or whatever that you are not allowed to have a wedding until you've been married for at least a year. And I was like, interesting. Start to dig deeper. And the guy's just like, you need to make sure you've been in that marriage for a year, you're sure that you want to be together, and then you have a wedding, because you're not going to have me flying from X state to Y state to come to your wedding, and 2 months later, you've broken up. Where's my blender? He's like, where is the blender? Brother. Who got the blender that I gifted you?
Can you imagine?
So yes, yeah. I mean, people do it all the while. Weddings, houses,
this is what gets
cars.
Me. This is what gets me. People are replicating very aristocratic rich people. When aristocrats have big weddings, it is less than 1% of their net worth. We are replicating some of these aristocratic tendencies, and it's like 90% of our net worth. Stop it. Get some help.
Stop it.
Another thing. I'm just getting started. Another
Lord
thing.
have mercy.
For example, like small things. like a front yard. Having a front yard is beautiful, and why? But the reason it started in the beginning, in the first place, is because it was a way to demonstrate your wealth. If you were like really, really
To
rich,
have a
you
front
have
yard?
huge front lot. Like these mansions used to have huge front. But now these houses are built with these front yards. So what am I saying? It's not bad to have a front yard. I like front yards; they look nice. But you have to know why you're doing these things and what value you're actually getting from it. If you're somebody who doesn't give a damn about a front yard and you're willing to give that up in order to have more square footage in your house, knowing that helps when you're trying to make these decisions, right? So just don't do things based on what other people are doing or whatever the case may be. But actually know why you're doing it, and hopefully it's helpful for you.
Yeah, I completely agree. We looked at a house that, like, it was gorgeous inside, perfect space, everything, but there was like just a little plot in the back. And I don't care about front yards, but I just needed somewhere to garden and grow my food. And it had like a little plot at the back, and it was mostly concrete. And we passed on it, and I don't regret it, because like I knew that was very important to me. And one of the main reasons I wanted to get a house was to be able to like plant and garden and all of that. So absolutely have to make sure that you know your why before you go into the what, because you'll find yourself cash poor, and the same people that you're trying to impress are not helping you to be. If you go to them and ask them for $1, they're gonna be like, "Did you know she came in and borrowed $1 from you?" But and everybody around town gonna know that you're broke.
She borrowed $1. Oh,
Child.
But she got a Lexus in the driveway.
Yeah, right. And then, but little do they know, you bought that Lexus to impress them.
Right. Mm-hmm. The Lexus take premium gas, you know.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that because I don't own a Lexus.
I don't own a Lexus. Me neither.
All right, cool. So share some more, and also just some general money tips too, because I think some people just need to get their general money life in order before they're even thinking about getting a house life. So share some more like money tips, even if it's not directed towards like
my favorite chapter in the book is about boundaries. I keep seeing this coming up. Having financial boundaries is extremely difficult in the context of dealing with family and people that you love. Yeah. Even in people that you don't love. People would walk down the street, ask you for $1, you feel guilty. Imagine saying no to your mama.
True.
And all of that starts from the inside. Again, everything starts from the inside you. You have to know who you are, what you want, and what you're doing it for. And you have to have a vision for yourself. And once you get to that place and you're very clear about that, everything else falls into place. If you're not secure and confident about who you are and what you want and like what's in the inside, there's gonna be more confusion and muddiness on the exterior, especially when you have to tell your family members, no, I can't buy you an iPhone because I'm in debt, or I have a goal to whatever. You know, family back home, they think because you're in the States, you can just buy them and send them an iPhone or iPad. Yep. Where it's just casual. Oh, $800, no big deal. I want the latest iPhone 17. I don't know, whatever. I don't even have an iPhone.
What number are they at? No,
exactly.
I don't even know.
So the point is, having boundaries, I would say, is probably one of the toughest things for people to do, because even if you are somebody who makes $1 million, if you're giving up $999,000 because you don't have boundaries, you're no good.
You're broke. Yeah, that's one thing I always say to people. Like, yes, it's important to make a decent amount of money, but it's also possible for you to be broke making a lot of money if you're not managing it well.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Especially in our community, because when you add the context of coming to the States or just migrating and the trauma that comes with that, and potentially having to deal with poverty and the immigration system and the family separation, wage theft, being underpaid or not paid at all, and potential eviction and health situation.
Ooh, the list keeps growing.
It makes it a lot harder to navigate having to set boundaries with other people, because especially we live in community. It's like, oh, you don't love me, kind of thing. And then some people, parents, emotionally manipulate you when they say no.
Okay, all right. So yes, the trauma, migration, yes, setting boundaries. I will definitely say boundaries is what do you call it? Like it's a foundational piece to managing your money well and building wealth, right? If that's what you're trying to do. Maybe you're just trying to get by and not live paycheck to paycheck. That's fine too. But anywhere if you're trying to be financially sound, any direction, boundaries are super important. Boundaries with yourself, boundaries with family.
It starts with yourself.
Yes, it does. Because
if you don't have boundaries with yourself, no one else is going to respect you.
Right. And if you don't have those boundaries for yourself, what are the odds that you're going to be setting those parameters with other people?
And it's such a psychological game. It's a lot of it is just psychological. Money is just psychological for the most part. If you can understand why you make the decisions that you make, and try to unpack that, it'll help you in the long term to make sure that when you have a plan, you can actually stick to it. Because we all have our Achilles heel. I really like shopping at Suit Supply. They have great clothes. But I stop myself from going there only every 6 months because I know myself.
Suit Supply. And if you're not seeing Yannick on video, Yannick is decked out in a very wealthy man looking suit. So
this is my casual.
It's okay. All right. You just called me poor. I heard it. I heard it.
No.
Okay. This is your casual suit. All right. Noted.
I'm just chilling. I'm chilling today.
Okay. So you like to, where is it that you repeat the name of it again?
Suit Supply.
Suit Supply. Okay,
they're not paying me, this is not an advertisement.
I can blank it out, but I'm going to make it a note for myself to go check them out, see what them have.
Great quality clothes.
So have you moved on from Aldo? Because I know Aldo was as a... Oh, okay.
Yes, I've moved on from Aldo.
Okay.
I'm on to other things now.
Oh, okay. Poor again. Called me. I heard it.
But again, I restrict myself. It's a huge psychological game, and there's so many components to it. But if you're able to figure that out, it will play probably one of the biggest roles in terms of your financial journey. But you cannot expect to be in a good place financially in the long term if you do not figure that out. And if you do think that you can, you're delusional.
Wow. So when you talk about like the community thing and it being a challenge for immigrants and Black immigrants, I also think like being in community can also be like like it can be a strong suit, right?
Correct.
Like it can be something that like we can utilize and use, because when you think about, like in the book even mentioned this, like having a community and being able to lean on them, not necessarily monetarily, but it can also be monetarily, can really help you to progress in life, whether it's like financially or just like career rise or whatever. So it's not that we're saying it's a bad thing that you have community, but it has to be, one, something that is beneficial on both ends and both sides. So if you find a member of your community or a family member is always asking and they're taking, that's a problem, and you need to create a dynamic shift there. But you also need to make sure that you're pouring into them as well,
Yeah, I mean, life is about balance. Everything is yin and yang. What is good can be bad. You can use a knife to make a delicious meal, or use that same knife to accidentally cut yourself. And so the power of the community is incredible, and it can also be incredibly toxic. And so you have to leverage the power of the community, but under certain conditions that people have the similar values and they treat each other with respect and everything as well. So it can be very good or it can be very bad, but you have to decide how you want to engage with that. But yeah, having the community as a foundation and doing things together will compound the impact that you have by many, many folds, and make it a lot more impactful, whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah. And something that you mentioned prior to was knowing your why and knowing you and your relationship to money. I love that idea, because like just because you are you may have trauma around money, and I think you were the one that kind of made me realize this too. It's like if you have trauma around money, it can affect you in different ways. You can either become a big spender, or you can be like really tight.
Extremes.
You can go to extremes, right? But then also, just because like you spend a lot, and you as soon as you get the money you spend it or whatever, that doesn't mean that you have to, in order to be in a good financial situation that you have to completely change who you are. You can figure out how to balance that. Like, so you like what the place called
Suit supply.
Suit supply.
My
So
God.
if you like suit supply, the suit supply place, it doesn't mean that you have to completely cut them off cold turkey, but you always say build it into your budget, plan for it.
So something interesting that I learned recently: the trauma around money that you have never goes away, regardless of how much you go over it. Get over it.
Really?
It never goes away. It just becomes dormant, and it can get triggered at any point. However, if you're not at a certain place within yourself, that trigger can basically lead you down a very terrible path.
Yeah.
And so, however you grow up, whether with your parents or whatever the case may be, knowing how that's impacted you will help you know how to deal with those triggers when they do come up. But whatever triggers or trauma you have, it doesn't go away. It best case scenario, it stays dormant, and you know how to live with it and control it.
Damn. Wow. Okay. Noted. So can you talk a little bit about budgeting? Because you always say it is important to budget, but I find that sometimes when people are quote unquote broke or struggling, right?
Yeah.
Like really struggling, where they just know their expenses are more than what they're bringing in, right?
Yeah.
Which can be a reality for a lot of people in the immigrant community because we're underpaid and overworked,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because that was our tagline for how many years?
Yeah.
Do you think that it is still important for somebody who is in that situation to budget, and why, and how can it really help them?
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I hate budgeting.
Really?
I freaking hate it. It's tedious and boring, and it's absolutely necessary. I've come to a place where I've automated my budget as much as I possibly can, but I still have to have some manual steps and make sure that money is moving certain ways and bills are being paid, etc. But I've done my best to automate everything as
So
much
that you
as
don't deal with
possible.
it as
I
much.
do deal with it, but not in a completely 100% manual way. And so there are ways to do that, which is a different, podcast episode. But knowing how much money you're spending is actually crucial, especially the less money you make.
Wow. Okay.
Because your money is just going to be bleeding and you don't know where it's going, etc. I mean, at all stages, it's important to know where your money is going. But if you are on a very, very fixed limited income, you have to know where your money is going and hopefully be able to track that. So, but hey, everybody's in different places. If you are not in a place where you can really, really focus on your finances, try to do it piecemeal. The minimum bare minimum to do is at least look at your bank statement. If you don't have time for it, if you're struggling with health situation, because we're all in different places in life, try to do the absolute bare minimum of looking at your bank statement. That way you have an idea of where your money is going.
Where it's going. Got you. So I want to dig a little bit into your book. Can you talk about what triggered your decision to write the book? Why did you feel it was important to write it?
So during the pandemic, I found myself having a lot of the similar conversations with friends about money and budgeting and all that stuff. So one day I was sitting on a couch after like my 12th conversation, and I just stood up and I was like, I'm going to write a book. So literally I declared it. It was very dramatic. I'm very dramatic. And so I started that night with just like a one page, and I thought I was going to do like a cute, quick 19-page book. That was my goal.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. It was just to be like 19 pages because I was like, I'm not writing a big book. Like that's stupid. So I mean, it turned out to be about 215 pages, but that was what triggered it. It was just my experience during the pandemic and people kind of struggling with money and all that stuff, and just having to repeat myself. I was like, let me just put it to paper.
Put in a book, yeah, and get paid for it, right? We love a monetary exchange. So why write a book specifically for Black immigrants?
Because I'm undocumented Black, I was inspired by us, how much pushback we got for doing an organization specifically for Black immigrants. We got called racist and all that stuff. And it was important to be very specific about your target audience and all that stuff. So I kind of took that inspiration from Undocumented Black to focus specifically on Black immigrants. And those were the people I was having conversations with. And there were a lot of nuanced issues that are specific to us in our community that I wanted to address because I had not heard it being discussed in other spaces or, talking about money. And then I'll also say a lot of the advice that I was listening to and hearing and all that stuff were specific to privileged white man, Dave Ramsey. He gives really good advice, and then in other instances, I'm like, that doesn't apply to like 90% of our community, because he just lives in a different reality.
Yeah.
And so his advice is not nuanced or tailored enough to people in our community.
Yeah.
So it, I just wanted to provide my own nuance, in a interesting
relatable way. Yeah. I love how you did it too, because it is very relatable. It's not, I think sometimes when you're reading books or even listening to podcasts or whatever about finances, there are lots of like terms and things that like people start talking about that make me kind of like blank out. So I mean, I'm still trying to figure out like investing in stocks and whatever, and then when they drop some words, I'm like, brain cells get real fuzzy. But the book is like very easy to understand, but it's not dumbed down either, so correct. Like it gives you enough tools to be able to really like build your financial situation to where you want it to be. And I also like I think that's also a part of why I did this podcast too, is getting obsessed and being into like decor and DIY and all of that stuff. Like I'll obsessively watch videos, I listen to like one main podcast, YouTube, all of that. And sometimes they'll talk about things and I'm like, ooh, that's not my reality. Like I'll see them say, oh, click the link, it was really affordable and to get this light fixture. Yes, and it would be like $5,000. They're like, it's good quality. Yeah, it's good quality, but you know what is also good quality? The money they want for it. I don't got it, And so I'm just like, when people talk about like affordable and and that, your affordable is different from my affordable.
Yeah, one of my coworkers was like, Yannick, you look great in this jacket thing. I'm like, okay, send me the link. I looked at the link. The jacket was $3,500. Ooh. I was like, sir, we are not the same. Don't ever send me links. It looked nice though. Yeah. He said it's got the V cut here and all this. I'm like, it's $3,500.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, you are right. I would look good in it, but it ain't gonna happen. So yeah, I respect that. I love that. And the podcast is called Create It Yourself, and you have created something twice that was not there, that you knew was needed for the people, for the community. So congratulations to you. I'm definitely have been inspired by you. Congrats on the podcast. You said what?
Congrats on the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
This is very unlike you.
I know, right?
You used to be in the background and not want to say anything.
Listen, I said it in my intro video that like it's so outside of my comfort zone, but like you of all people know, like I absolutely hate being at the forefront, hate talking, hate. Listen, you know it was in my heart. Just like it was in my heart with UBN, it was in my heart with this. So I had to follow or it would keep me up at night. So yes, thank you for that. But you definitely inspired me, with the book. I was just like, look at Yannick. Because I think even though we did organizing, I think it was out of, I don't want to speak for you, can tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it was more out of necessity for us and not necessarily like our full calling. I think we had like different ways of pouring into the community, and I feel like the book was your perfect marriage of what you're passionate and happy, right? Yeah, it was a perfect marriage of like you being passionate about supporting Black immigrants and supporting the community, but then you're also a money man. Like you that's your thing, your finances, your whatever. Like if I have a financial question, I'm going to come to you. So the book was just that like perfect marriage. So I was like inspired. I was like, I need to find my niche. That feels right to me, and I'm like still pouring into the people. So
what a fun conversation.
I know. Thank you so much. It took us a while to get here.
3 hours.
Yes, we will. There will definitely have a part 2. But thank you so much for being here and joining me in this conversation. Thanks.
All right.
I hope you'll come back.
Of course. Right, kicked out.
All right. Thanks. Bye.